this story to you called Lion at School, and we have some puppets to help us. Hello. Lion at School. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who didn't like going to school. She always set off late, and then she had to hurry, but she never hurried fast enough. One morning, as she was hurrying along as usual, when she turned the corner, there stood a lion blocking her way. He stood waiting for her. He stared at her with his yellow eyes, and he growled. And when he growled, the girl could see that his teeth were as sharp as skewers and knives. And he growled and said,
"I'm going to eat you up."
"Oh," said the girl, "oh dear," and she began to cry.
"Wait,"
said the lion.
"I haven't finished. I'm going to eat you up unless you take me to school with you."
"Oh dear," said the little girl, "I couldn't do that. My teacher says we mustn't bring pets to school."
"I'm not a pet."
"Oh." The lion said that, and he growled again. And then the girl saw that his tail swished from side to side in anger. Swish, swash.
"You can tell your teacher that I'm a friend who is coming to school with you. Now, shall we go?"
So the little girl had stopped crying, and she said, "Well, all right, but you must promise two things. First, you mustn't eat anyone. It isn't allowed."
"I suppose I can growl?"
said the lion. "I suppose you can," said the little girl.
"And I suppose I can roar?"
"Must you?" said the girl.
"Yes."
"Well, then I suppose you can," said the little girl.
"And what's the second thing?"
"Oh, the second thing is that you must let me ride on your back to school."
"Very well."
So he crouched down on the pavement, and the little girl climbed onto his back, and she held onto his mane, and then they went together to school with the girl riding on the lion's back. Now the lion ran with the little girl on his back to school, and even so they were late. The little girl and the lion then went into the classroom just as the teacher was calling the names of all the children. The teacher stopped calling the names when she saw the little girl and the lion, and the teacher stared at the lion, and all the other children stared at that lion, and they were wondering what the teacher was going to say. Then the teacher said to the little girl,
"No, you're not allowed to bring pets to school."
Now with that, the lion began to swish his tail, swish, swash, swish, swash, and the little girl said, "Oh, but this is not a pet. This is my friend who's coming to school with me." Well, the teacher just stared at the lion, but then she said to the little girl,
"Well, what is his name then?"
"Noel," said the little girl. "His name is Noel, just Noel." She knew that it would be no good to tell the teacher that her friend was a lion, so she turned his name backwards, not Lion, Nionoil instead. And so the teacher wrote down the name in the register. Noel, she wrote. And when she finished, she called the rest of the register.
"Betty Small."
"Yes," said the little girl.
"Noel."
Said the teacher.
"Yes."
Said the lion. Now he mumbled, opening his mouth as little as possible so that the teacher would not see his teeth that were as sharp as skewers and knives. Now all that morning the lion sat up on his chair right next to the little girl like a big cat, with his tail curled around under his front paws, and he was as good as gold. He didn't speak unless the teacher spoke to him, and he didn't growl, and he didn't roar. At playtime, the little girl and the lion went outside to the playground, and all the children stopped playing to stare at the lion. But then they went on playing again, and the little girl stood back in the corner of the playground with the lion right beside her. And the lion said,
"Why don't we play like the others?"
And the little girl said, "Well, I don't like playing because some of the big boys are too rough and too big, and they'll knock you over without meaning to." the lion growled,
"Roar. They wouldn't knock me over."
"Oh, but there's one big boy, the very biggest," said the little girl, "and his name is Jack Tall. He knocks me over on purpose."
"Which is he? Point him out to me."
So the little girl pointed at Jack Tall. She showed the lion.
"Ah, so that's Jack Tall."
Now just then the bell rang and all the children went back into the classroom, and the lion went back in with the little girl and sat right beside her. And then the children drew and they wrote until it was time to eat. The lion was hungry and he wanted to draw a picture of what he would eat for lunch.
"What will it be for dinner? I hope it's meat."
"No," said the little girl, "it will be fish fingers because today is Friday." Now then the little girl showed the lion how to hold his yellow crayon in his paw and draw the fish fingers. Underneath the picture, she wrote the words, "I like meat better than fish fingers." Now then it was time to eat, and the lion sat on his chair at the table right next to the little girl. Now, lions are very fast eaters. And at the end, when he was done, he said,
"I'm still hungry and I wish it had been meat."
Well, after they ate, all the children went back onto the playground. And all the big boys were running about. And the very biggest boy, Jack Tall, he came running in circles closer and closer to the little girl.
"Go away. You might knock my friend over. Go away."
"Shan't," said Jack Tall. And the little girl got behind the lion. Jack Tall was running closer and closer and closer, but the lion growled.
"Roar."
And then Jack Tall saw the lion's teeth, as sharp as skewers and knives, and he stopped running. He stood still and he stared. Well, then the lion opened his mouth wider, so wide that Jack Tall could see his throat. It opened wide and deep and dark, like a tunnel you could go into. And Jack Tall went pale. Then the lion roared.
"Roar."
And he roared and he roared
"Roar."
and he roared.
"Roar."
Now all the children came running and all the teachers came running. The children had stopped playing and they stuck their fingers in their ears. And that biggest boy, Jack Tall, he turned around. He turned around and he ran and he ran and he ran. And he never stopped running until he got home to his mother. And then the little girl came out from behind the lion and she said, "Well, I don't think much of him, and I shall never be scared of him again."
"I was hungry. I could easily have eaten him, only I'd promised you."
And his mother wouldn't have liked it one bit, said the little girl. "Well, now it's time for afternoon school."
"I'm not staying for afternoon school."
"Oh, well, I'll see you on Monday then," said the little girl. But you know what? The lion didn't answer. He just walked off. And on Monday, the lion did not come to school again. And at playtime on the playground, that biggest boy came up to the little girl again, and he said to her,
"Where's your friend that talks so loudly?"
"Oh, he's not here today," said the little girl.
"Might he come another day?"
"Yes, he might. He easily might. So you just watch out, Jack Tall."
"Humph.